One of the basic tenets of the DC universe is that messing with Batman is, well, unwise. Despite having zero superpowers and instead solving all of his problems by throwing money at them until they go away, Batman has earned a spot on the greatest teams of superheroes that the DC universe has to offer, and has therefore thrown his squishy human body at things that one would be forgiven for thinking would be rather unfazed by his efforts. And the punchline with all that is that, well, he keeps winning. Which is crazy because, again, he has no superpowers. Hey, nonetheless, sit back, relax, and enjoy this list we at What Culture Comics have put together of the 10 most powerful beings Batman has defeated. Number 10, The Predator. The Predator is one of those 80s franchises, like Alien, that gets crossed over with pretty much anything it wants. And of course, the Predators made the mistake of coming to Gotham. This cheesy but fun as hell miniseries saw the Predator go head to head with the Bat family and getting its ass hilariously stomped. Realizing that it was going to become the laughingstock of the Predator hunting lodge due to being beaten by a welfare brat who dresses like a flying rodent armed with a particularly thick stick, the Predator decided instead to commit suicide by stabbing itself to death. And Batman keeps the sword as a souvenir because, well, of course he did. Number 9, Dracula. Dracula, after being staked in the heart centuries back, was moved to the New World for good measure by the people of Transylvania, just in case that didn't do the trick. Unsurprisingly, he's been rotting under Gotham this whole time, and when he wakes up, he immediately sets about rebuilding his dark kingdom of vampires, using the people and supervillains of Gotham, and having Batman foot the bill with the cops due to their shared iconography. But when Batman whips up a cure for vampirism, Dracula decides to take out bats personally. Batman barely manages to survive long enough to get back into the Batcave, where his handy-dandy Chekhov's gun is waiting for him in the form of an artificial sunlight generator, which he uses to reduce Dracula to dust. Number 8, OWLMAN. Justice League Crisis on Two Earths is exactly what the title claims. It's the tried and true story of different universe versions of the Justice League, called the Crime Syndicate, coming to Earth to try to take it over for themselves. And maybe it's not all that surprising that one of Batman's biggest threats is, in fact, another different version of Batman. See, discovering other universes causes the poor crook to have something of a breakdown, realizing that every decision he has ever made was not truly his to make, but rather the result of being a mirror to Batman. OWLMAN decides to make the only choice that no other version of him would ever make, which is go back to Earth Prime and wipe out everything that has ever or would ever exist. Batman manages to chase after him and uses the dimensional portal to send OWLMAN and his world-ending bomb to a version of Earth that fell out of orbit with the sun, and thus never developed life. OWLMAN goes to stop the bomb, but instead shrugs and lets it happen. After all, it just doesn't matter. Number 7, The Hulk. Now, for those who only really watch the movies and are now going, wait, the Hulk from Marvel and Batman from DC crossing over? Well, I never. Well, actually, it happens more often than you think. Batman, knowing that a straight fight with the Hulk is notoriously unwise, decides to use a blend of chemicals to instead render him unconscious. However, the Hulk countered with simply holding his breath and waiting it out. So Batman punched him to make him inhale. Moral of the story, my friends, tactics are fun, but sometimes you just need to punch a big green man in the ribs. The more you know. Number 6, the HYPERCLAN. Grant Morrison's run on JLA almost made the endurance run of the 1990s era of comics completely worth it due to how utterly bonkers and awesome it was. One of the most standout stories in this run was New World Order, where a new superhero team called the HYPERCLAN comes to Earth. In reality, however, the HYPERCLAN are a team of white Martians planning to conquer the Earth. However, this is still Batman, who knows exactly how to fight a Martian. So he surrounds them all and himself in a ring of fire, which negates their powers and weakens their constitution, and proceeds to give 3 of the HYPERCLAN's heaviest hitters one of the most humiliating beatdowns in comic book history, and it was amazing. Number 5, Ares. Dark Knight's metal is Scott Snyder deciding to turn the DC multiverse into his own personal heavy metal album cover. This storyline is where we're introduced to the Dark Multiverse, a category of alternate universes made up entirely of nightmare scenarios, where things go so utterly wrong that it is impossible to come back. And it is one of these universes where we find one of Batman's most insane conquests, the god of war, Ares. In a war against the aforementioned Greek god of war, Batman finds himself as the only survivor, clutching the dead body of his lover, Wonder Woman, in his arms. Originally, the plan was to separate the god from the helmet from which he draws his power and destroy it. But Batman decides that that plan was for people with something to live for. So he instead takes the helmet for himself and puts it on, killing Ares and becoming the new god of war. Number 4, Dr. Destiny. One of the all-time best episodes of one of the all-time best cartoons, Justice League, was the episode Only a Dream, where the Justice League took on Dr. Destiny, whose ability is to control others. Batman, being used to long nights, is the only one still awake with Martian Manhunter when the rest of the League falls under the good Doctor's control. While Manhunter tries to wake them up, Batman heads out to find the diabolical Dream Demon. He does manage to track him down to a warehouse, and despite its closer proximity giving him control over Batman's perception, even when he's awake, Batman puts himself in a meditative trance while chanting a catchy song from the radio to drown him out. And when Destiny tries to attack him with a syringe filled with a very powerful sedative, Batman just knocks him aside, causing him to accidentally inject it all into himself, overdosing on the sedative. Number 3, the Batman Who Laughs. Batman Who Laughs is a version of Batman who got hit by Joker toxin, turning him into the ultimate unholy mix between the two characters. The only way Batman could beat a guy like this would be to bring in a wild card that even he would never use, the Joker. With the Joker teaming up with him to fight the Batman Who Laughs, the monstrous alternate Batman is unable to keep up with either of them due to him having relied too heavily on being able to predict what happens next. And you can't predict the thought processes of a mind like the Joker's. Number 2, Superman. Unlike similarly grim and gritty Batman stories, this one at least acknowledges that at one point these two heroes were friends and that them coming to blows is a tragedy that should not have happened. Batman has returned to hero life after decades of absence, while Superman has allowed himself to become a dog of the now openly fascist US military. The fight between them is legendary, one of the all-time greatest comic book fights, with a genuine back and forth to it that makes every punch and kick and every trick both sides pull out of their pants feel like a game changer. It leaves you legit wondering which one is going to win, only for Batman to narrowly pull off a victory at the last moment via a kryptonite arrow courtesy of Green Arrow. And number 1, DARKSEID. There is a metric ton about Final Crisis to unpack, none of which we have time for today, but the most famous scene that everyone knows from it by far is when Batman broke his one rule to bring down DC's most powerful villain. After DARKSEID has managed to claim the anti-life equation and conquer all life on Earth, Batman manages to find him during the final battle. Realizing that things have gone too far and too dark for a single man's oath of non-lethality to mean anything, Batman decides to utilize the new god-killing bullet established earlier in the story to take down DARKSEID once and for all. Sure, DARKSEID's Omega Beam seems to kill him in the process, but seeing as how it's revealed later that he really wasn't dead, I still feel confident in giving this moment the top spot. I mean, really, it's Batman killing DARKSEID. What more is there to say? And that wraps up our list of the 10 most powerful beings Batman has defeated. My name is Ori with an A, and until next time, peace.